Would you like to develop a gentle, even lighthearted relationship to your trauma? Would you like to learn how to be more present? Does experimenting with the universe sound fun? Would you like to rid yourself of past guilt and overanalyzing your life? In today's episode on Root Awakening, a health podcast, we are talking with Toni Short. Toni Short is an artist and Ascension Host. And Toni has just this beautiful journey that has included some trauma. It has included all of these different learning experiences. She is such a special person that has cultivated so much in her life. She is an Ascension Host. So we hear that phrase, that title, and we think, oh my God, that sounds amazing. What is that? In this episode, she describes what that is in the most beautiful and eloquent way. What she does is really allow people to come together to use creativity to heal. And she organizes these beautiful events for people to come together, for children to come together and learn and experience the budding realization of spirituality and creativity and art. She really gives everyone a platform to be an artist on. She makes art so accessible for everybody, and she's just like a master gathering planner. And she has had this beautiful story, and she explains to us what got her to the place that she is today. She is an artist now. She is an Ascension Host, creating all these beautiful gatherings, and she really lives one moment at a time. She flows with everything. She allows life to unfold, and her energy is so contagious. You get into Toni's energy and you are like, oh my gosh, I see it now. This is what presence is. She has this glowing presence, this timeless presence, and she's just such a special person. So we talk a lot about being able to look at our past events in our life and our past experiences and look at those experiences with kind of a lighthearted view and a knowing that there's no need to feel regretful. There's no need to overanalyze what happened. It happened for a reason. Everything is a learning experience. So she really explains this concept very, very well in a super clear way. And Toni talks about how we can make real life kind of an improvisation. How can we improvise in our real life to flow through life? There's this very playful vibe about how she approaches life and reality and difficult situations, and it is healing to hear her explain this and explain her experiences. She talks about spirit first. So how do you lead with spirit? How do you lead with God? How do you lead with your soul? How do you lead with your intuition? These topics are so at the forefront of my mind right now, and really these topics are part of what completely changed my life to get me to this next level of, oh, I feel better physically, to, wow, now I'm really understanding my purpose and why I'm on this earth. So Toni has come on to share with us her story, share with us so many different healing tips, and really amplify this vibe of being present and just being and allowing yourself to be human and make mistakes. It's beautiful. So let's get into it. This is Root Awakening, a health podcast. My name is Emily Ciosek. I am the CEO of Root Awakening and an intuitive health coach, and I help you discover your psychic gifts and become more intimate with yourself along the way. You can follow me on Instagram at emilys.rootawakening. Root is spelled R-O-O-T. Tell me hello. Tell me what you think about this episode. I'm happy to connect with you always, and I serve my clients through intuitive body readings and one-to-one spiritual coaching. My intuitive body readings are one-to-one sessions over Zoom, where I use my third eye to read your body and will listen to what the universe wants me to communicate to you about where stagnant energy and suppressed emotions is living in your body and what you need to know in order to cleanse yourself of that, allow yourself to be an open vessel to follow your intuition through life. And my one-to-one coaching is trippy and beautiful and deep and a blast. I help my one-to-one clients discover and strengthen their own divine and psychic gifts. And within that process, my clients also build more intimacy with themselves and their relationships in general. You can book 30-minute or 60-minute readings with me. Head to the link in my bio on Instagram or Facebook at emily's.rootawakening to book a reading. And if you're interested in one-to-one coaching, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Facebook. So let's get into this episode with Toni Short, artist and Ascension Host. Hi, folks. I am super lit up today because I have Toni Short joining me on this episode. Toni Short is an artist and Ascension Host. Damn, I love that title. She's an artist and Ascension Host. So beautiful. She is just such a dynamic person, has so much interesting energy flowing around her. And I know that someone who puts together the types of events and gatherings and the type of person that curates what Toni curates in her life is the person that we want to fucking talk to today. I'm so excited to have her on. And Toni and I are going to talk today about her journey in general and using art to heal and teaching how Toni teaches folks to learn more about themselves. And she mentions also experimenting with the universe. This is something that she has practiced in her life. And this is exactly where I feel like I am at as well. It's all divine timing. The idea of experimenting with life, being open to life, being playful with life, allowing creative expression to flow through life. All of these topics are so beautiful to me right now. And I'm so excited to bring in Toni's energy today to kind of be a catalyst to these topics. Toni, it is such an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on Root Awakening a Health podcast.
Oh my God, I can't, my cheeks are hurting so much from you. I just, thank you for seeing me and for allowing me the space to share my story. And it's a very exciting place to be in this exquisite unknown, but at the same time, such a deep sense of knowing. The more I learn about myself, the more the rooted awakening. It's too much. So it's a real pleasure, and I'm very grateful for your time. So thank you.
It's an honor. It's an honor. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Right back.
Toni, I would love to start out with talking about what you do. I am sure that my audience is going to love the sound of you being an Ascension Host as much as I love it. And I would love to hear about what that is. How would you describe yourself as an Ascension Host?
Absolutely. May I ask your permission to go back a few steps?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm born in Australia, went to London when I was 22, lived there for 7 years, doing, big jobs in the big world and all of those types of things. Then I went to DC for 5 years, and again, more big jobs, more relationships, more wanting all of the things. Then I came to New York, and I think this is always where I was meant to be, a sort of personal, professional detours that brought me to New York. And again, more big jobs, more big moments, more big things. But I was empty and lost and scared, and I didn't really have the language for that then, but I knew it. Like we always know something. And so my awakening, I would say, started through my work context. I got told by a couple of colleagues that I was a horrible boss, and that was a nice way of saying it. Like, it was a rude awakening in some things. And so I started to look at myself in the corporate world and see some things around the bosses that I'd had and the things that I was working through. And that really started to open myself. Again, I didn't really have the language for it or really even know what I was doing back then. And that's, I think, what makes it so special, this sort of, again, the unknown and the knowing that driving us. And I think as a young person, I was always pulled by my chest and my heart through the world. And some of that was conscious and some of that was unconscious. But at the same time, there was sort of this willingness to put myself in new situations, moving to 3 different countries, getting visas, really living in an sort of, I could say, like almost extremely confronting way by putting myself in new environments and new situations, but always just knowing that that's what I was meant to be doing. And then fast forward a little bit, 2015, I left where I was working in a big corporation where I'd done really amazing things with really big people and really learned so much about sort of the TV entertainment industry from the other side. and started my own business. And that first company was a creative and event production company. And I loved it. Like, I really got to sort of curate things that were actually how I would do it versus being in-house, where I sort of had to do it according to the rules and things like that. And I've always been someone that's been wanting to do things differently, always had a different vision, had this ability to see things from an extreme macro perspective, but also the micro details, you know, picking up on just that golden thread through my events, that golden thread through my own life. How do I create that sort of energy? And I think the biggest thing where this sort of ascension world started was I wanted to start a business that did things differently. Events and things can be stressful, or everybody says it has to be stressful. But I didn't believe that was the case. You know, I think if we are clear in our communication and we are open and honest and real and truthful, like the truth doesn't, the truth just goes straight through us. And as women that work together and groups and leadership, if you can just look someone in the eye and be like, that's what I need, or have you got anything else you can add to this? Great, cool, let's do it. And being in that energy. And so that really was my first step of creating a company that, I'm not hiring you, we're equals. You bring your magic, I bring my magic, and we create things for each other together for, an outcome of a group or a company and stuff like that. And really changing that mindset, it became very early to me that it doesn't have to be stressful, and we don't have to be nasty, and it doesn't have to be a drama. We just be real and look each other in the eye and be like, oh my God, I totally forgot that. Okay, cool. Like, what are we going to do about it? Instead of, deflecting and defensive and things like that. So that really was the start of my transition in the work context. I loved what I do. I had, been in the events world for 25 years. So I had this, this beautiful ball of energy that was following me around the world, bringing me into opportunities that, the average person, young girl from the middle of nowhere in Australia should never have experienced. But I was, and embracing them, and really, I think, again, looking back, tapping into the universe and the energy without even knowing what I was doing, but it was there in how I spoke to people, how I engaged everybody from the president, through to the cleaning lady, and kept everybody in a place of, love, to be real, but, again, different language, different times. And it also started to transition too, that I saw that it was more than just the event planning and the logistics. It was about the people and the energy. And, people say the energy, and like my cheeks are hurting again because it's such a funny thing. Like it means so much and so little and so nothing, and I started to feel that I had this gift around being able to see people in a way, you look at any sort of meeting, and, this fear begets fear, and this hot potato of fear goes around. And then, I didn't know it was then. And and I could just see that, and how it was connected to the people and the psyche of each of the individuals that I was working with, and having to hold space for logistics and things to get done, but really be this bridge or this guide to host people, to hold people from start to finish. You get a project and they want to do this, but their budget's this. So then having the truth to be able to be the one that's like, okay, well, I can get you this for this money or that, and being the one that actually would speak up. A lot of people would say nothing, and then you go months down the track, and then it becomes dramas. So I started to see that my ability to see people, to understand and feel their psyche of what they were doing, even the events themselves, why are we doing this? What are you trying to do? This may be a launch or a premiere or something, and how can we get to the underlying strength of the message to be tapped into that, so that what we're doing keeps coming back to that aligned notion. And these are all words I use now. At the time, it was sort of just an unknown sort of energy, hilarious, that was just taking me through it, and it was exquisite. I was making it up as I was going along, as we all are. And as I started to see this, I started to sort of develop other, let's say, brands for the sake of it. This energy muse concept that came about, and that I was able to you know, work with people and really see them, what was underneath. Like, you know, this person was being mean to this person, and this person was being sort of stroppy here. And so how could I look each person in the eye energetically and understand where they're at and take them to the next place so I could get what I needed out of them? There was no, you know, no beating around the bush that I wasn't trying to get something out of everybody, but I had to find the magic to tap into every person's energy so I could bring these projects together, really birth incredible things through quite hardships, you know, companies that weren't being real and honest, and you know, people that weren't being real and honest, so many things. And it was exquisite. And I loved it. And I felt that this was more my calling versus the logistics. You know, I had done some of these, you know, huge events. And whilst I felt very proud of myself, and I had, you know, smoothed out the bumps and got better at, you know, sort of all the pieces of the process and the puzzle, it really, for me, that lit me up was the energy and the connection between people, and how I could move us through something and come out at the end and all feel good. You know, I think we've all been on projects in some shape or form where we come out at the end and we feel sad and angry and confused. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, these are really exquisite experiences as humans that we're doing, and not only what we're delivering to sort of the consumer or the guest. So how can we make that beautiful for ourselves and the team that are putting it together, as well as the client, as well as the end user? So that's really what was developing. Meanwhile, I beautifully and incredibly called in a highly narcissistic romance scam to bring myself to my knees. And I will always say it's one of the best things that have happened to me. Mm-hmm. I had no self-worth. I had no understanding even what intuition was, like literally hadn't like heard the word and cognitively understood it, and then realized I had it and was probably using it my whole life. Mm-hmm. There were moments when he would manipulate the gaslighting, you know, and I didn't know what narcissists were or it. So, you know, I was deep in it. I was so desperate for a family and to be loved. Mm-hmm. I used my money to keep him around. Mm-hmm. He would use it against me to sort of work my soft spots. I literally bankrupted myself emotionally, physically, financially, sexually, energetically. Over $100,000 I bled on him. I looked after his child. I also betrayed myself at the highest degree, because there were times that I didn't know about the 5 other women. Let me just rephrase that. I didn't know about all of the things of the other women. And at the time it was 5. I knew about 1, but I pretended and I put it under the rug, and I looked myself in the mirror and lied to myself constantly that it was enough, or it was good enough, or it was something that was better than nothing. Or I thought it was cool because we're in this secret thing. And I betrayed myself every single day for, you know, a good 2-3 years. And I laugh because it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It brought me to you. It brought me to myself. And it brought me to this sense of rebirth and playfulness that has changed my life beyond anything that, you know, a boyfriend or a job or any of this stuff could do, because these are all, you know, constructs of our mind. They're constructs of society and familial belief systems. I mean, you know, anyone that's listening, I'm sure, to your audience knows that these are all things that we're working through as light workers. We're working through as humans going through the journey of ascension. And, you know, these are all things that are in this sort of 3D world. But, you know, when we realize we're, you know, this spiritual being, this, you know, love and light, whatever it is, in a human body, you know, none of it matters. But at the same time, it's so deep and so real. And I was on my knees and it was amazing. And I thank him for helping me find myself. Truly, truly, truly. I think that the forgiveness, that it took a long time, and it's been a crazy journey, and we'll get into that, but it took a long time to actually realize it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with me that he chose the next one and he moved on, and that's what they do. They discard you. You know, I was in the system. I was in his survival racket. I was part of the puzzle, but it had nothing to do with me and whether or not he saw me and chose me and then, you know, didn't choose me. It really had to do with the fact that I didn't see myself in every possible way. You know, there were times when he would manipulate situations to have a fight and then leave. And I remember just being so devastated. I was 40 and I had nothing to show for myself, and I was going to have to start again. And, you know, when I look back now, I mean, I was the one with a house and a beautiful company and amazing achievements, you know, again, whatever that means. And, you know, this generous spirit that gave until I got, you know, taken advantage of. I mean, on so many levels. And that really was a gift. And it's incredible to honor how far I've come, and also to see, I think for me, what I flipped so that how I could teach, you know, and teach others really to learn about themselves. And so the beauty was, it was the summer of 2018, and I was, I mean, a complete shell of a human. I had always wanted to manifest to close my business over the summer so that I could travel and have adventures, summer adventures with my impending family. So as I was beginning my early days of manifestation, I was like, okay, I'm going to close my business. That was sort of like a sign from God. Something told me to sort of give myself this break. And I went, fascinatingly, as I was so empty in my cup and being giving to everybody else, I continued that. And I went to the internet and I typed in like kids camp, Google, and, you know, July, something, and something in Haiti came out. And within a few seconds, I'd paid them thousands of dollars, and I was flying to Haiti in a couple of weeks to go on this month adventure, to go on this kids camp for meditation and song and dance, all the things that I had loved. And about 24 hours before I was meant to leave, it canceled. The country went into civil arrest and everything was canceled. And I was again left sitting on the floor of my apartment, wondering what the hell I was going to do and how I was going to get out of this hole. I needed to get clean. I was smoking a lot of weed, but it wasn't ritualistic or high vibrational. It was a crutch. And it was numbing me to the point where, you know, that's how I could survive. And I thought I was being all of these things, but I wasn't being honest with myself in so many ways. And something, I'll never forget it, something said to me, put these pieces of paper on my wall. And I had these 3 pieces of like big old butcher paper that you get wrapped in, you know, random things. I scrunched them out of the cupboard and I stuck them to the wall. And then it told me to draw a calendar. So I used my weed tray that I was no longer using, and I drew the lines for 3 months of morning, you know, Monday to Friday, morning, noon, and night, broke it up into sections. And then I said, what now? And day by day, minute by minute, Spirit said to me, fill it with all the things that you love and you've always wanted to do. And so I started following these breadcrumbs, and it was so clear. You know, I put my hair in braids and had it in a little wrap. I turned my phone off for days and weeks and things, like, you know, literally stepped out of society in a way that was so freeing and scary at the same time. I got my bike out of the basement and I just followed Spirit, and I filled those days with a camp for myself. And it started with, someone said, go to improv. It's great for public speaking. And I was like, okay. So I signed up for some improv. I get there and it's musical improv. And I'm like, what the fuck? I've never done anything like this. I danced for years when I was young, but I've never done anything. So I just remembered every time it would come around to me, I would like shit my pants so much and cry. And I was very much in the tear stage still. It was a lot of heavy energy. So, I was so, almost back to being a child and just this sort of little infant that was just waiting to be taken from place to place to heal. And again, this is all language that I can share now. At the time, I didn't really know. I'd wake up every day and look at the calendar and be like, okay, and I would pack my lunch and I'd take my bag and my teddy everywhere. And we would just go on all these adventures, and I'd ride along the West Side Highway, and then I saw the trapeze. And so I would go in and they said, you can sign up now. And I literally did trapeze there and then. So every Tuesday and Thursday I did the trapeze. I did a memoirs writing class, and I wrote about the rawest of the stuff. Everything, these women in this class, they held space for some crazy stuff to come out because it had all just happened. Like the way it all had unfolded, I'd learned about the other women. And so I wrote all about it. I painted, set myself an intention to paint every day. I now have a pile of over 200-300 paintings in my apartment. After improv, I joined up for an 8-week course. Then I went to a hip hop improv, which led to singing lessons. I was writing poems and journaling every day, just all of this darkness bleeding out of me, pain and pain and pain. And this wasn't just this time. This was, eons of years of pain and, everything from my childhood, everything from my past lives. I mean, I went to sort of every type of healer and every type of body worker. I really made it my job. I feel like I did a PhD in myself, 3 months of nonstop. Every day I showed up. There was no I don't feel like it today. I got out of bed and I went to these classes and I showed up singing, dancing. I hadn't danced for probably 30 years, really properly. I went back to ballet, beginners ballet. I went back to a sort of modern class. And actually one of that teachers has now become my friend and was one of the women in that group. And I saw her, serendipity, I saw her in the park and I said, I'm going to come to your class tonight. And then bit by bit, it just unfolded. And eventually she came to me and she said, this is what's happened. I've had sex in your house, in your bed. And I said, I know. And we, unpacked all of that. So all of these things came for me to heal, to release it all, to learn that it wasn't me. And let me rephrase that, to learn that I played a role in all of this, but it wasn't me that was, let me find my words here. It wasn't me that was a bad person. How about that? Mm-hmm. It was me that was being awakened. And this was just my story of how it had to go down. And I wasn't listening to any of the signs before. We all know we get signs through our life constantly, but we don't listen. And we don't want to listen because it hurts to face the truth in some ways, or actually it hurts to acknowledge that we maybe haven't been facing the truth. And I wasn't ready to face the truth until it hit me so hard in the side of the head that I had to. And again, best thing. So I filled all my days and I went to singing lessons, and someone in the musical improv talked about song structure. So I started changing all the poems into songs. I went to singing lessons. She's like, what do you want to sing? And I was like, I have all these songs. So we cataloged probably, 200-300 songs, literally every two times a week. We would go for 4 or 5 hours. She was an incredible musician. She would make the music and the keyboard, and then we would make these songs. I learned beat making, and then I started recording the songs, literally just having a blast. Went to acting classes, you name it, I did it. And it was truly, truly, truly life-changing. And I started to see that the ability for artistic practices for no reason other than for yourself has such a tremendous ability to heal people that I was like, this is for real. And again, these are some of the things I've observed later, but at the time I just knew that I was feeling happier and I was able to interact a little bit more in the world. I really went into a good chunk of hiding. I was so ashamed of myself. I was so ashamed. Even my mum and I have only been able to recalibrate, because she's just, I don't understand how such a smart, worldly, beautiful woman would let someone do that to themselves, would fall for that. And, I can understand that. But at the same time, I couldn't see that everything that he was reflecting was what I needed to learn about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the reason why children also became such a big deal for me to teach kids about this and to use this artistic processes is because if we could teach kids to learn about themselves, they don't get to 40 years old and go through something like I did. Mm-hmm. It's avoidable. Mm-hmm. It's like prevention, like blisters, put on a Band-Aid first. If your shoes rub and you won't have a blister, it's prevention rather than cure. If we think about that in our education system, our familiar system, and all of those things of how we can support the world through their ascension by using these, practices. So fast forward a good year of healing, a good year of exploration, and I started to realize that I really loved all of this artistic stuff. I started to audition for movies and plays. I did an off-Broadway. I mean, I showed up to some crazy ass stuff. Mm. And it was almost like I had this beginner's mind all of a sudden, because I think it was like a chip got removed of caring what people thought, mm-hmm. but also I didn't know what I didn't know. So often sometimes in some of these lessons, people would be explaining something to me, and I think maybe they were like not taking the piss out of me or being horrible, but kind of borderline. But because I didn't get it, it didn't hurt me. It didn't affect me. So I was just like, I'm in, teach me everything. I learned about music and songs, and I was like a sponge. I went everywhere I went. I was like, teach me about writing. I went, all of these things. And so fast forward, I guess a year, 2 years, I was still doing the events, but starting to sort of feel again the shift and around sort of supporting people more so around the energy and the interactions of humans and things like that. And I think it got to, I would say, summer last year. And as we were all starting to go through, the big shift, if we can call it that, mm-hmm. I got another calling in meditation that said, you need to bring the camp to the world. And what's funny is I tried to dodge it a lot. And I was like, well, what about I just want to sit around and do nothing all summer? And what if I want to travel? I literally tried to throw everything back. And it was just like, no. So within a few weeks, I pulled together a really small team, and I basically birthed and brought to the world a camp, or the camp. And it was a 3-week virtual space for women to come together using artistic practices and different healing modalities to learn about themselves, to heal, to connect, kind of bringing it around connection, expression, and expansion, bringing in for me the spiritual stuff. Spirituality is free, the faith is free, and the concept of learning about yourself is free to some degree, that you can, even you look at, if you wanted to work out and have a fit body, you could just do push-ups and things of your own. You could do everything for free. And so really my premise in everything that I'm doing is sharing as much as I can in a context of free. So I brought that camp to the world for free and offered it as a gift, knowing what it had done for me. And knowing also what I had witnessed in other people sort of experiencing my story, and how I had used all of these things and started to create songs. I'd never sung, I'd never acted, I'd never done any of these things. And then to sort of be in a studio making music with people, and also seeing how my energy was then bouncing off theirs. And, I think there was healing going on with all of those people I was connected to, the people I was seeing in these classes that were really going through things, and then me being able to bring this sort of perspective, or this, this heart forward energy that would then just wash over them, and they would almost get sort of used a word, I think at the beginning, this catalyst, was sort of like this soul opening catalyst that I started to see that, and people were shifting and people were changing, and just random people in the street, you know, having moments with these people and seeing how they would change based on me telling my story or based on me just being honest and seeing them. You know, I think as we think about the world today, you know, being seen is something that we're all starved of. And, you know, I think desperate is a funny word, but we're all really, really craving and slowing down everything that I did in myself and in my work so that I could see others in their journey and acknowledge their gifts and honor them and then, you know, feel that golden thread and that energy bounce back and forth. I mean, you know, we would make songs in 30 minutes, you know, God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to say, it would be just like coming through us, you know, and this is exhilarating. As someone that's never done that before, I was like a kid. I was like, if I could just wake up every day and go make music and be involved in film and, like, you know, I'm observing everybody and everything, watching, learning, understanding protocols and you know, how to plug things in, you know, just everything. I mean, I just became really obsessed with being present and mindful. Everything I eat, drink, think, put into my mouth, put into my body, what I say to myself, to others, you know, like it just became this beautiful journey and really very internal, because I think until I did that internal work, you know, I couldn't see almost my own gifts of then how that work could be of service to the world, but I knew it had to come through myself first. And, you know, that's really where I, you know, became, you know, a steward or a host, you know, going back to the word Ascension Host, you know, knowing that when I think after the camp kind of came about, I took some time off and then relaunched my website and kind of came out of the closet in a beautiful way as this Ascension Host, got, you know, inspiring, offer, I guess the official language, offering inspiration, guidance, and counsel to humans and brands going through navigating the journey of ascension, and realizing that that's a thing. And a lot of people were so fascinating too, you know, being in this place where I'm so bold to be making it up, which everybody is, in case anybody out there is wondering, like everybody in the world is making it up. Presidents, queens, you know, bosses, everybody is making everything up. And it's sort of almost like musical improv. If you go at it with a committed energy, then people believe it, and then it starts to stick, and then you keep rolling. And for me, coming out of the closet per se, as someone that believes in ascension and the journey of awakenings and spirituality and sort of the universal energy, the infinite and the abundance and the intelligence and all of those things, which, you know, I didn't make this stuff up. It's been happening. That really was the point. And people were like, you can't say that. They won't know what it is. And I was like, here's the deal, people. First of all, I didn't make that up. Somebody else, this word's been around for a long time. And second of all, why the hell not? Because that's what I'm doing. Whatever language, however you want to dress, if you want to wear beads or have tattoos or pink hair or green hair or wear a Chanel suit, whatever your format is and however you want to express it, it's all the same. It's about finding about yourself and then sharing it with the world through what you love, and people can feel it. I mean, you and I sitting here now, we know we could feel it. And that led me to some incredible things. I've made, you know, 3 albums. I've been in movies. I've, you know, sat down and asked God what to do. And I wrote some movies. I wrote a play talking about my story and talking about these 3 women. You know, I think also there's so much stigma around all of this stuff that we don't talk about it, and the shame. And I knew that my healing that came from sharing it with this other woman, I knew that if I spoke about what I'd been through in artistic ways, and I think that's something that is interesting to me in my art, in my writing, in my poems, in my, you know, even my moon channeling flows, if I speak about it with an artistic undertone, I believe it can be received differently. And, art is a non-verbal communication at sometimes. And I think that it helps people receive it on a soul level. Mm-hmm. And then almost, again, the intelligence of our bodies and spirit will do the work for us and take us to where, then you bring in your synchronicities, then you're dropped in front of people that will help you to the next stage. And then a book falls off the shelf and it confirms something you've been wondering or knowing. And, the journey just gets more and more delicious. And, I think that's where the experimenting with the universe came. I'm like, well, what if I did this, even just laughing? If I sing about God, will my voice get better or be more amazing? And it kind of works. It's really fascinating. And that's really what I practice. If I sing about the universe, if you look back to all the lyrics of Madonna all these years, everything is about the universe and love. And so I started just playing with what if I don't go towards the standard life? What if I create a company, based on what I did and, back in the day with my event company? What if I create, experiences and opportunities that are based on what I love? Will that bring me money? Will that be answered by non-physical money? Will that be offered to someone serendipitously that will then open another door to me? And, we know what the answer is. And in the meantime, I, show up and then be honest with myself brutally. And I think, when you're honest with yourself, all the fear dissipates, all the funk dissipates, anything that you just speak directly about, it goes away. And realizing there's nothing that can hurt me anymore compared to what I've already been through. Nothing. And that was that all in a big mix was my freedom to find myself, my freedom to be myself, my freedom to love myself in a way that I've never, ever known how to. I wasn't taught to. And now I get to share that with others. And that's why I made up Ascension Host, because that's what I've been doing my entire life. I just didn't have the words for it. And here I am. Thank you for holding space for me, for sharing all of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's what a beautiful journey. I mean, how special, Toni. And throughout the time that you were talking, I'm in it every moment. You really take us through every moment of the flows of what you experienced. And I was just in it for that. And the biggest thing that came up for me that I want to share.
Love it.
The level of integrity that you share with us while you are sharing your story is so fucking special. It is so special for us to know, for the audience and for I to know that everyone is just taking it one step at a time, trying to make something of this, making it up. It is life-changing to hear this. It is so important to hear someone that's been so successful throughout their lives to tell us that we are all just making it up. So let's be playful with that, and let's accept that, and let's have fun with that, and fully embody that. And it really, like, this integrity that you have speaks to everything that you were talking about. And it sets such a good example for us. So thank you so much for this story. I mean, it is transformative to hear, like you say. And I love this idea of we experience the things in our life when we're ready for them.
Yeah.
We get stuff gets thrown at us when we are ready.
Yes.
And we choose to accept what's thrown at us when we are ready. Everything is when we are ready. And it's all like that for a reason. And this idea of us experiencing trauma, a lot of my clients talk to me about this. They say, I don't know anyone else that has had this level of trauma in my life. Why me? Why me? And I tell them, folks, we go through trauma to become even more powerful and strong and capable and wise. I mean, at the end of the day, it's wisdom, it's lessons that we learn. It's so going through stuff that's so hard gets us to the place where we say, oh my God, I overcame that. And how healing is that, first of all? Second of all, now I can teach people, whether it's intentional or not, I can teach people to be able to navigate through their own lives in a way that can bypass a lot of the hurt that I went through. And that is what you're doing, Toni. It's so beautiful how it works. It's so cyclical and purposeful. And do you see it like that as well?
Absolutely. Yes. I think that I certainly wasn't ready. And then the timing became so divine to bring in all those lessons to a place where actually I even had, I think, the capability to actually cope with the lessons and to deal with the level of pain. You know, I think that's kind of the beauty of, like I mentioned, when the manipulation of the fights would happen, it got to a point where actually I was like, I'm so capable, but I didn't know that my capabilities were even beyond that, because all I could see was the sort of the small part of myself. And, you know, I saw all the lack, maybe, you know. I try not to, you know, I've really even shifted the language that I use. You know, I think if you say, you know, I'm lacking or I'm struggling, then you will keep struggling. So, you know, I've approached this journey on an exquisite level of detail in my playing with the universe, and even how I share my messages with other people. You know, if I just meet someone in the street, you know, my words are specifically chosen, knowing that if I resonate at a level that keeps them at that level. So my goal and my work is to resonate at a level that I can move them to the next place. And it's funny, even as you think about the you mentioned the cycles, I think that everything, I couldn't have done that before I had done that. I couldn't have done this before I had done this. And all of that actually just makes the work now that what I'm doing so juicy and so fun to be able to, you know, to look at someone and be like, I'm not going to ever, you know, say that your trauma wasn't traumatic, but I am no longer in that trauma. And being able to step out of it, you see how people can kind of go through those cycles. Even with myself, I think there was a good year where I introduced myself, my Toni, and I just had a breakdown. And then I was like, okay, well, let's not say that anymore. So then, you know, the cycle became, you know, I'm Toni and I'm on the other side of this. And then I'm Toni and now I talk about this. So those cycles in myself have not only been in my own ascension, but also then the expansion of myself in order to be able to give more back, which is really why I believe I'm here. I'm here to, you know, wake people up. I'm here to show them that who they are and actually how powerful they really are, so that they can, with their own hands, you know, eyes, feet, body, everything, they can turn their own lives around, because it's doable. It's so doable. And it's actually really a lot of fun. I'm not going to say like there weren't some hard times, but I've had a bloody blast. You know, the people that I've met, the things that I've done, the stories that I have, the moments that have shown up to take me from place to place, from being open and being willing to do the work. And it takes discipline. You know, I write every day. I sit at my bed and pray every night. You know, you don't have to do it how I do it, but that discipline with yourself in some way will then be reflected back to you again in the invisible currency of life. And you then will be fulfilling your purpose of being human, which is to share yourself and to share your heart and to share your learnings. And there's no silver bullet to skip past, but you can be more discerning in your decision making. maybe next time you get into relationships, you might ask a few more questions. I think there's so many things, so many directions that it can go.
Exactly. We learn through experience. And everything is all, I really feel that everything is all kind of set out for us, and we get to play through how everything is set out. And that's fucking fun. And we get to discover, right? We get to discover. Another big topic that has come up throughout my healing journey, come up through my clients' healing journey, and just in general, I observe this so much in our society. We get so annoyed about not knowing the answers to stuff. And it's part of our experience on this earth right now is to be like, why don't I have control over this? Why don't I have the answers? If we start, I believe, I know for me, once I started to say, you know what? It's supposed to be like this. It is supposed to be like this. I'm not supposed to have the answers about everything. Everything that I experience and I'm going to experience, it's going to happen. It's supposed to happen. And I'm going to flow through that and see how can I learn from this. I've never been so happy. I have never been so happy to just allow life to be in this dynamic, allow life to be a little bit messy, allow life to be synchronistic, which is so beautiful. If we allow like if we let go and detach and just focus on what we can control, that's when we can allow things to be synchronistic. It's so beautiful.
I feel like one of the first books that wrote itself, that was, I called it In Receiving Mode. And it's really interesting because a lot of people ask, like, how do you stay like in forward motion or happy energy, or what are those things? And I was like, it is minute by minute, and the discipline that I've had to build that muscle, because just like singing and improv, they were all muscles that I had to build. And it was like, okay, how do I feel right now? I'm hungry. Okay, I'm going to eat. It became very, especially after the breakdown, it boiled down to minute by minute. Have I eaten? Have I slept? Do I need to go to the bathroom? And that's it. And then it built a little bit more. And it's like, well, I feel like painting. Well, I feel like reading. Oh, the sun's shining. I'm going to just sit here and stare at it. Like, it really became that small and minute, which feels so goddamn scary, because you feel crazy. You feel wild. This can't be something. What if I even thought, if people saw me doing this, they'll never hire me because they think I'm crazy. And how can I be running a business if I'm sitting here like with my teddy lying in the sunshine in the afternoons? Like the minute level of just minute by minute. And then also the dance with the universe in every, if I go back to every like coach I had, which all of them taught me incredible things, but every time I put a goal or a concept to something, or a thing that I said it was going to be, I never broke past that point. Financially, otherwise. So once I started realizing, being like, I really love this, and this is what I'd love to do, and then let it go, and then saw where, once I kept myself in receiving mode, which is being in light, in love, and some people are like, what does even in light and love mean? I mean, it just means doing something you enjoy. Is your heart feeling full? And that could be making yourself a sandwich. Sometimes during the day when like work gets busy, I'll stop and watch BoJack Horseman and do a little 25-minute episode. That makes me feel amazing. It puts me right back into alignment. I get up and off I go. But it's having, I think, the courage to take those steps and to make those moves, knowing that that is getting this sort of like snowball effect of allowance and receiving going, this sort of dual dance with the universe, to then to let the things that are, predetermined in our sort of path to come into play, and having the courage to do that, and having the sort of sense of humor, I think, to play with it and be like, I couldn't even imagine half the things that have happened in my life. And if I had tried to really stick to what I thought and how I thought it should go, we wouldn't be speaking, and all of the other pieces that come with that puzzle. And I think that there's something in that willingness to give yourself over to something bigger, which, I know a lot of people work through control and letting go, but it's the beauty is they're just like micro letting goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the micro letting goes become bigger ones. And then, rolling through your day being like, wake up in the morning and be like, okay, universe, what have you got for me? Who do you want me to meet? What am I meant to do? Some of these things I've taken from other people. And then I'm just like, wow. And then you're out in the street and you're like, I really needed to hear what they had to say. That then puts you into place for something later. And I think that moment by moment courage, that moment by moment playfulness, that moment by moment trust, that moment by moment, all muscles that deserve to be built as much as our singing, as much as our, computer skills, all of those things, they then keep delivering. So that's where, that I think you mentioned it at the beginning, the experiments with the universe, I would put it out there and then see how it would come back and be like, okay, cool, I got you. I see messages and signs through t-shirts, through people's names, through star signs, through, you can make them up. It's everything. Again, we're making it up. So it's like if you attach something to it, connect, and then just see what comes back. And then when it starts coming back multiple times in a day or a week, you're like, okay, this has to be something. So then I'll throw out another one. If this is something and I'm not crazy, throw me one more. And then it comes back. And then I'm just laughing my head off.
I love it. I love it. It's so cool that you are giving us really a guide to presence here. That's very bite-sized. It's super valuable because I remember 2 years ago, listening to somebody else's podcast, and they were having these folks on that were like, oh, I'm just living in the present moment by moment. And you could hear it in their voice. They were. And I was like, damn, if I ever get there, like, that's amazing. Like, how? But they're meditation coaches, they're meditation teachers. So maybe that's just how they built that. Or I don't know, we get these thoughts in our head of like, oh, that can't be me because of that. That person is like that. And I'm not like that. So I probably won't be that. But something in my soul, now that I'm looking back, of course, in hindsight, something in my soul told me, you'll get there. Put the intention out there. Eventually you will get there. It does not have to happen tomorrow. It does not have to happen tomorrow. And it's probably not supposed to. But I do remember thinking, okay, how do you even go about that? Like, how do you just be present? What the fuck does that even mean? And you are giving us a guide here by saying and oh God, this is so reflected in my healing journey as well. First of all, if you just focus on your next best step, literally, it could be even in the moment. It could be even like, I don't even want to write a to-do list today. It's just going to be, what do I need next? Breakfast. Okay. What do I need next? Oh, I should send this email. What do I need next? Okay. Do this, feed the cat, whatever. That, first of all, what a great place to start, especially with folks who have anxiety, folks that feel paralyzed by depression. One fucking step at a time. It's life-changing. The next step,
go towards the light with each step.
Exactly. Yes. Just visualizing that instead of like, oh, how do I connect to my intuition? This is something I teach on, and it can sometimes be paralyzing for people. I don't know what my intuition sounds like. How do I know the difference between intuition and fear? Well, if you picture yourself going towards the light, what would you be doing next? That's an amazing place to start. And then if you're feeling like, okay, let's get a little bit more flowy with this. I'm ready for more experimentation. What lights you up that you want to work on today? What lights you up? This is what really reflected so well just in my knowledge of myself and my healing journey when you were talking about just what excited you. I was like thinking in that moment, this is the exact practice that got me to where I am today with the level of presence I have in my life. Just validating what I wanted to do, not what I feel like I should do. I started to change the narrative of I am going to become successful if I do what makes me happy. And it's not going to make me successful to do the stuff that I don't like. This is a subjective opinion. Okay. There are some people, right? And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. There are some people that are in the holistic space, but they still say you need to do some things you don't want to do in order to become successful. I think it depends on how you think, what you associate with, what definition of what words resonates with you. For me, the idea of doing what I wanted to do and becoming successful in that got me to the place where I started to want to do the stuff that I didn't want to do before. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this topic?
I love it. I would even like go a level deeper. What the hell does success even mean?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And who fucking made that up? And who said that is something and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck all of that.
Yeah.
You know, and not to say that there's not value in like making sort of growth and, you know, up leveling your game and up leveling your quality of experience and service to the world in the form of a podcast or your bakery or however you do it. But, you know, really also looking at that and stripping everything away, like, am I doing what I love? And when we get back to those micro movements, it's like, and tuning into intuition, like as a sort of a starting point or a guide for people, you know, start with the basics. What do I like to eat? I like strawberries. I'm going to eat strawberries. Done. That's it. That's one step towards your own intuition. So next time you go to the zucchinis and something in your body feels weird, you're like, clearly I don't like zucchinis. Done. Intuition, like tuning. And I just found I just kept tuning it. You know, when certain people would ask me to go do things, I would notice that feels weird. There were certain time frames that it took to actually realize it was more about that person or this thing, you know, rather than myself. Sometimes I couldn't like separate what was sort of my vibration or others. So just on that minute level, you know, what sort of movies do I like? What sort of, you know, and following what you love in every way. And then before you know it, you've got this beacon inside of you that I call it like Operation, you know, the game where you hit the edge and it just goes bzzz, if it's in the area that you don't want, and you know. And then that's the beauty of truth. When you're honest with honoring that feeling in the bzzz or not, you go towards what feels good and you step away from what doesn't. And then all of a sudden you're sort of like floating, gliding, flowing through things because, you know, that intuition is going like, there's strawberries over here and they're getting given away for free. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to eat strawberries. And then you're talking to someone who's eating the strawberries and they're like, oh my God, I need someone that does graphic design. And then you're like, holy shit, I do that. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did that happen? You know, like that's the magic of the infinite force that then starts kind of leading us through those. And, you know, I think those step-by-step moments of tuning yourself to that intuition, tuning yourself to what you like, tuning yourself to the decisions and saying no and being like, you know, I don't enjoy that and I'm going to say no. And then being in a state of acceptance with that. You know, I think we make some decisions that aren't really, you know, the ones that we want. And then we get there and we feel funky. We're like, okay, well, I can be sad about this or angry, you know, but maybe that's not worth spending any energy here. I'm here. I can find the best way to enjoy this moment. And then I know next time to be more discerning that that's a definite no for me. And, you know, that lesson, you know, I think the tests and lessons, you know, you talk about Abraham Hicks, you know, they keep coming, you know, because they're going to present themselves to you. Are you paying attention? Are you being honest with yourself? And, you know, I think that's a delicious game to play. Very much.
I love how you say that, delicious game. And I wanted to mention too, like this idea of having this fine-tuning process over time.
Yes.
One of the this was literally, Toni, 2 weeks ago where I read something. I can't even remember who shared this piece on Instagram. I read, it was like a dating expert. I think it's called Art of Dating NYC. And it's kind of like working through relationships in kind of a holistic way. Fascinated with the topics of sex and dating and how that relates to our society, holistic healing, etc. Came up and said, allow yourself to make mistakes. And I was like, holy shit. Like it just sat with me so well in that moment. I'm sure I've heard that before, but in this moment I was like, oh my God, so true. And that really got me to this next level of presence. It really did. Like, oh my God, yes. I was holding myself back because I was trying to, okay, I'm a health coach, spiritual coach now. I've had this crazy healing journey, so I have to stay on this perfect path. No, we're still human. We are meant to experience the dark, the light, the good and the bad, the perfectly imperfect, right? So I'm like, allow myself to make mistakes. And especially folks, like, and I'm curious again, Toni, if you what you think about this as well. At a certain point in your healing journey, when you have a level of self-awareness, you're not going to all of a sudden just lose yourself completely. Or if you do, it's temporary and you will come back to yourself because you have the intention established that you want what's best for yourself and you want to honor yourself. What do you think about that, Toni?
Yeah, amazing. And that operation buzzer gets louder and gets stronger, and you can't ignore it anymore. Like you can't, once you kind of woke, as the kids say, to some degree, you can't go back. It will buzz so loudly that you'll, and I think that will just reinforce a lesson or a learning or a sense of wisdom or a sense of sort of, training within yourself to strengthen a muscle of saying no, if you're going towards something. And, I definitely think I had, a lot of fear that I was going to go into a relationship again and get myself caught in something and be taken advantage of, and a lot of trauma around that. And I think and I for some reason seem to be a magnet for beautiful young men that have been through a narcissistic experience with a woman. And so I have a little gang of these gorgeous young men that I'm creating with and healing with, and teaching them that you will never make this mistake again. And it was a mistake that you forgot yourself, and you now know differently, and you will be given sort of experiences and tests to help strengthen that muscle. But those learnings and mistakes are really what bring you to the other side, to then actually have a bigger heart, to be able to receive more love, or to be more deep in your intimacy with someone, or be able to lead more beautifully. I think about my event company and my event career. I learned everything in that from messing up, from getting kicked in the ass. Like everything that I know now, and really there's pretty not much that rattles me, when I'm running these things, because everything has already happened. But all of that has happened from getting kicked in the ass from the mistakes that I made, not asking questions. I think I learned about the 4 agreements very early on in my kind of journey, and not making assumptions, not taking things personally, and being impeccable with your word. Like once you start sort of operating in those mindsets, all of those mistakes, you realize it's bringing you there to reconfirm something, to re-highlight something, to even reinvigorate you of actually you deserve love, and you deserve partnership, or you deserve to be in a job that you really excel at, and all of those things. So I think step by step, everything, when you start to realize that everything is this like little gift on a silver platter, to be like, boom, here's something for you to enjoy and find and learn. And then you're like, and when learning becomes a sense of play and a sense of fun and a sense of enjoyment, everything also shifts. Because I think at first maybe it's like a childhood thing that we feel like when we learn something or get told something or told off, then we're a bad person, or that we're going to get in trouble, or something. There's something that triggers us. But actually learning is exquisite. Yeah. And the more I learn about myself, the more then I know how I can interact and to hold space and to, receive, more. I don't know, it's like magic, like looking at a sunset blows your mind to the point that like your whole life changes. Whereas before, like you didn't see it, like the richness of everything, the small intricate details become so rich. Then I'm just like, what else can I learn? Like I have voraciously learned about myself. I say that PhD that I started during the camp, it became, deeper and deeper and deeper. And really that's how I shifted something. Once I learn about me, then I know how I can hold myself as I wield my vessel through the world.
Totally. Oh my God. Totally. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, Toni. And I think I just kind of am saying this now for the first time. I'm thinking and talking at the same time. The idea of learning, if we take out that piece where we feel like I'm bad, right? Yeah. It's like, again, like you say, childhood healing stuff. That was so big for me. Like when I would get told off, It was this feeling of I'm bad, whether I knew that person was right or I thought that person wasn't right. It was still this feeling that would catch me up, this feeling that I'm bad. And if I took that out of it, like, oh my God, wait a second. I'm like a blessing on this earth, just like every other fucking human being is a blessing on this earth and is irreplaceable to this earth. So this is part of my path to learn. There's nothing I'm bad. It's a waste of my time to think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't. It's all a fucking learning experience. It's all, we are improving every second, every millisecond of the day.
Yes. Yes.
I
think there's a personal responsibility. What is it? Einstein says anything that you do repeatedly and expect a different result is kind of insanity. So I think there's a personal responsibility if you're showing up in the same way and not learning from your mistakes and causing sort of, a shuffle amongst other humans, that's something to observe and be curious about and be gentle too. I think if we look at anything, around alcoholism and drug use and, even sort of anger and outbursts or all of the things that, maybe show up in society, everything, there's a root cause to all of that. So if something's happening repeatedly in your life, there is something there that, deserves maybe a little bit of love and care to be like, and curiousness about why, and kind of open up the window for yourself to really learn that, and then to sort of, move forward in that place so that you can then share that learning rather than still be sort of stuck acting from that wound or something like that, and I think that as a society, I'm trusting that we're all moving in that direction, that we can hold space for each other. I had a very fascinating experience in one of my jobs. One of the clients was really inappropriately drunk at an event and inappropriate with some guests and my team, physically and some things. And I think in that sort of concept of like not being in trouble or not scared to rock the boat or any of those things, I went to my colleague that, hired me and just said, I need to share some stuff with you. This happened and da, da, da. And he said, what do you want us to do? Do you want a letter or apology? I said, no, I just want to know if the dude's all right. Because like that behavior is not normal, whatever normal means. But, that's clearly coming from somewhere. And if somebody hasn't already, let's ask the dude if he's okay. And in the end, the young chap's father had died and he was really going through it and had been drinking a lot and it was really affecting. And, this is something that he'd been, really terrorizing the team and multiple people around for quite some time. And I think, as a society too, we all, instead of sort of jumping to like, how can we discipline or how can we ostracize, let's look at how we can open our hearts and say, are you all right? Is everything cool? Like, just check it in, like human to human, and just be like, dude, is everything all right? Like, that seems crazy what you're doing right now. And I think sometimes that frankness that I have just cuts through and you just go soul to soul and they're like, shit, no, it's not. And then all of a sudden something opens and, that guy's gone on to doing amazing things and always looks back at that moment because I took that time to actually ask if he was okay. And I think, as humans, we sometimes get mixed up in all of the not making a noise or not rattling anything too loud or whatever. And, I think around that concept of like getting in trouble, I think something loosened for me too of like, being on time for things. And it's not that I want to be disrespectful for time, but more of like, nothing really matters. If I'm 10 minutes late to the theater and then I can't get in and like, that's the way it goes. Like that anxiety used to come with that. And, of like, oh, well, I can't do that because that, this place, you're not supposed to do that here. And then, but if they see me, and it's like, I was sort of churning all of this external feelings or external sort of judgments, external sort of like things that weren't maybe true. And really actually, again, if I just show up and be like, hey, I'm late and can I come in? No problems. We'll get you a seat or something. I think it just opens a window to connection in a way that like we're not used to doing and can take us all so much further in our own personal happiness, which is really, if we're not here to be happy, then I don't know what the point is.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh God, I love that so much. I would love to explore this topic a little bit further as well. So what came up for me is this idea of like, why are people doing things that are ruffling feathers or upsetting other people? And I thought, I truly believe that anyone who is terrorizing others or getting inappropriately drunk or having a really hurtful relationship with someone and kind of perpetuating that, the folks that are doing this, I truly believe they are not okay within themselves. There is a side of them that knows something isn't right for me, and that's why I'm causing distress for other people. So I really believe that if we take the time to care for ourselves, we are by default going to be hurting less people. Our conduct towards other people is going to change. And I think that I'm just thinking this now and it's coming out of my mouth. So we'll see how my ideas change about this. But right now, what I'm thinking is we tend to get raised in this society to believe if you focus on yourself, you're being selfish. And that's a negative. I really think that if we focus on ourselves, it could be the most selfless thing to do ever in our lives. What do you think about that, Toni?
Yeah. I think that taking the time to learn who you are, what you love, why you love it, and how you can share that with the world is not only transformational for ourselves individually, but the permeating effect that has on our families and societies and communities and partners is unmeasurable. And even to the point of our medical systems, our, societal sort of structures. And I think that we are told from a very young age to not sort of focus on ourselves in a way, to not honor what we want. We move through family and relationships where we think we have to make the other person happy, and we lose ourselves in that process. Even, the process of having a baby, we give so much to the child that often, see the journey of mothers, losing themselves, which is, something that's very important to me. I went into early menopause. So I've been really looking at what my experience as how I can give as a mother without it being in natural birth and all of those kind of things. My current experiment with the universe is reversing my menopause. So let's big up to the universe for playing that game. But there's something about that selflessness of, if we can't give to others if we aren't giving to ourselves, the kind of classic putting on the oxygen mask. And that preface, I think, going back to children again, if we can teach them that is something that will enhance their life and take them where they want to go. All their dreams will become possible from learning about themselves and loving themselves. They will have better relationships. They will be more open to connection, which again sort of ripples and permeates. I think there's something that would shift the entire world. I mean, I think that's if maybe in some way that's the whole concept of consciousness anyway, of raising all our own vibrations, but it has to come from ourselves first. And, spreading the message that is more than okay and actually preferred to live that way is an incredible sort of concept. And, we already know the effects of it because we're feeling it now, and your audience feels it, and we see it in our smaller communities. We see it through, artists that have a larger platform that share and can, move people through certain situations and things like that. And being able to find ways to come back to ourselves is a gift. It is a gift that we give to ourselves, but that it has such greater results. And you said something too, that we're all unique. Like there's only one Toni, there's only one Emily. And when I kind of clocked that in my sort of like grown up cognitive mind, then it's like, you know, going to acting auditions and everything just became so much more fun, because like there's only one of me. If I don't fit, then that's okay. Wherever I am meant to be, I will be. And I think, you know, that developing that selflessness then allows you to sort of float around in the world in a way that we then are where we're meant to be, bumping into the people that we're meant to be, causing that ripple effect where we're meant to be. And then, you know, that is taking all of us up the spiral to more love, to greater connection, to, you know, reconnection with the earth and our animals. And, you know, we could go on and on and on. It's a very special kind of, I don't know, I almost want to say like secret language that isn't secret. And each of us that has found this light, having that responsibility to share that message, and then enjoying how it sort of permeates through our own worlds, and also the invisibleness of what the universe does to sort of reward us for giving that gift to each other.
Oh, yeah. So beautiful. What an incredible way to kind of pull together everything we talk about, and the invisibleness. That's just gorgeous thought. I love it. I fucking love it, Toni. Before we conclude this episode, I would love to hear about what some of your favorite projects have been, or what you're working on right now. Like, what are some specific projects that you've worked on with these groups that you gather?
Oh, amazing. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay. So a lot of people, what's fascinating too, is you go through life, you know, maybe even our parents or whatever, they're like, you have to just pick one thing and then just do one thing. I've never been that person. And I think as the universe works with me, they all are sort of like expanding, you know, dropping, creating, like they're all at different levels. So I find myself in many sort of arrays of things. So my current to-do list, which doesn't exist, but it all floats around with me in my essence. I'm currently working on an art exhibition, and I think that one of the things that came out of our successful conversation was like, you know, I need a gallery to take me on or whatever. So I chose to create a gallery within my home. So I'm currently curating my own art exhibition within my apartment. So I basically have been collecting all of these leftover frames that people have been leaving behind as they've, you know, left the city during COVID. I've been replacing that art with my own, and I'm in the process of curating a gallery within my home so that I can share all of the stuff that I've done. And just, I love all of them. They're all so different, and they're all, I paint a lot by the moon cycle. So I've been sort of, you know, just looking at my journey of recovery and expansion through my art, which has been amazing. I'm working on a poetry book, which is sort of a very raw experience of going through another experience, kind of entering into sort of a relationship model and watching myself. I made an intention to write poetry throughout the whole week-long experience. So then I've shifted that into a book. So it really shows just as a woman, like asking to be loved again, and then what that felt like, and then when it didn't happen, and then the lessons that I was learning and things like that. So that's something that's brewing, and I feel very proud about that. The camp is happening again. So this summer, I'm working on it here within my neighborhood. I've created this community art and play. So I set up out in the oval where I live and invite the children of the community to come and play, and I provide it all for free. So I do, you know, art and different sort of voice and movement and play and all things like that, just to sort of to keep doing what I love, but to bring it to kids, because I think that, you know, again, they're the key to the future without that being too literally humorous. I'm doing a lot of volunteering with a bunch of different 501c3s, the Fresh Air Fund, Big Sisters, Little Sisters, I think it's called. and doing a lot of creative expression workshops. So, ways for these kids to sort of, I think one of the biggest things that I'll take out of that relationship for me for those 3 years is I was too scared to speak up, because if I spoke up, I would have rocked the boat, and then he would have left and I would have had nothing. So my goal again with kids is to have them to be trusting in their self and their vessel and their essence and their knowing of who they are, so they can speak up and, about what they love. And so I'm bringing that into art and play and fun, and I'm taking them on adventures. We're going hiking into some forest, then I'm taking them to the beach, and then I have a desert one. So I'm doing all different things with kids around that. I have a new album coming out, so I'm working on something with incredible new musicians and producers, and really asked Spirit to come in and sort of tell us what it is. So we went into the studio for a week with no outline, no music written, and just improv'd and followed Spirit in everything. And I actually just got some back last night, and it's just exquisite. Like, your voice is one of the most vulnerable things to be out there. And I've been, playing my experiments with, universe around my voice. So I just keep asking, what do you have to say? And seeing it come out. We did some jazz improv and some other sort of dance stuff, and a little bit, it's sort of like spoken word healing, it's really amazing and special. And then just like hearing it, it's my voice, like, it's just crazy. Like, I just squeal like a kid. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. It's so amazing. So amazing. I'm working on another art series, which is all about my dreams and so much more. But really, I'm just following everything I love. That's it. And I'm trusting, I'm living on a wing and a prayer, and I'm trusting that all of the successful elements that will take it somewhere and make it be something more will come in. I just wrote a play, actually, I think I mentioned earlier, about the experience I went through with women, to talk about that and to bring all that to light. And, just following the light in every possible way.
So incredible. And it's just beautiful. As you say, folks, this is what your life can look like if you follow what you love. You set such an amazing example, such a beautiful example. And it's so important for all of us to hear this, to understand this is what we can all cultivate for ourselves. And you are cultivating that for yourself so genuinely. When we follow what we love, we glow. We're timeless. We have all of these projects that we're excited about. Or we have one project that is just the project of our life and is so beautiful, right?
Exactly. Yes. If I could say anything to your audience, I would say every minute you can breathe into your heart, tilt your head to the sun, and say, what next? And then literally something will come out of the woodwork and drop a crumb in front of you, and just follow them. And whatever you want to do, just do it. Because, we're here for this short amount of time, and to spend it in a job, in an environment that doesn't make us happy is crazy. And it took me a long, long time to work that out. And you can make the life whatever the hell you want. That's it. There are no rules. Comparison is the death of joy. So follow what you love. And if it's weird and different, the better, the more the better. Find what you love, tune into it, and follow it, and trust that everything else will reveal itself. And know that, maybe all the things that you couldn't even imagine will come out of the woodwork. And literally, I can't wait to hear the stories of your people and the things that come to them, because it's all there. Everything's just waiting for you to grab it, to receive it, to allow it, to own it, to stand in it, lean in, make it up, and just go for it. It's really exquisite, and I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you. And thank you for believing in me and seeing me and taking the time to share this with your audience. I really appreciate it.
It's been so meaningful. It's been so meaningful. And I really couldn't think of a better way to conclude this episode. Thank you for sharing your story with us, your beautiful energy. I'm looking at Toni right now. She's glowing, and her energy is glowing. Like, everyone's going to be able to sense this through this episode. And we're just so grateful for you. Toni, how can we support you? How can we check out the success of your album, get it for ourselves? What's the best way that we can keep in touch with you?
That's amazing. Thank you. I would say go through Instagram at Toni_short and also ToniShort.com, which is sort of the master mothership of all my brands and all my work. So anything you need, it's all there. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Toni Short, artist and Ascension host, for gracing us here at Root Awakening, a health podcast. We're so grateful for you. I hope you loved this interview with Toni Short, artist and Ascension host. I have all of Toni's contact info in the show notes. Follow her on Instagram at Toni_short. That's TONI_SHORT. She has this beautiful community on there. Go check it out. And folks, if you did love this episode, subscribe to this podcast, leave a rating and review, share this podcast with your community, spread the word, spread the inspiration, spread the higher consciousness that we are putting out into the world. And if you would like to book a 30 or 60-minute reading with me, head to the link on my bio on Instagram or Facebook. And if you are interested in one-to-one coaching, message me on Instagram or Facebook. My name on Facebook is MEM Ciosek, Ciosek, and on Instagram at emilys.rootawakening. I am Emily Ciosek, intuitive health coach and CEO of Root Awakening. Thank you all so much for listening to this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating holistic health and higher consciousness with me. I love you. See you on the next episode.